So I'm wondering if did you come here to hang out with the 92,000 Californias
Oh,
that infiltrated Tennessee?
You're hitting me right there, man. The California exit. By the way, complete bullshit now. The last 2 years, we've seen significant growth in California's population. So it's reversed.
Yes, by and large, the old rich people moved out, and it's the young people who are trying to start their lives who moved in. The people who left largely did not return. Everyone who lives in a state that isn't California is aware of this.
Do you think that everyday citizens carrying a gun reduces crime or increases crime?
I think the evidence suggests the opposite. It increases the likelihood of a gun death.
Yes, of course, when you take the guns away, people use a different weapon. It's well documented in every country on the planet that when you take away any one weapon system, the people just move to a different weapon system until you fix the underlying issue that makes them need a weapon in the first place.
And you look at all the states with the most comprehensive gun safety reforms, they have lower gun death rates than states with weaker gun laws. And there's a correlation there. California is one of the lowest gun death rates in America. The highest murder rates in the country tend to be red states.
Sean asked specifically about gun safety in cities. Gavin answered only about state level. These are not the same thing.
Significantly so. You look at the murder rate, 8 of the top 10 murder rates per capita in the country are all red states.
Well, I thought Chicago was the number one.
No, well, as cities, you'll have different experiences. But at state levels, gun safety, from our perspective, saves lives, and we have the data to bear that out. You look at the common sense gun safety laws that California started establishing in the 90s. You look at our gun death rate from the 90s till today, significant reduction, nation-leading reduction in the gun death rate. So that's the prism to which I'm into the data, I'm into the evidence.
So Sean's question was basically, does this prevent violent crime or crime at all if you might get shot by an armed person? Gavin answers and says, when you control guns and take them away, people stop dying to guns. In other news, water is wet. It's well documented in every country on the planet. When you take one weapon system away, guns, a different weapon systems, knives, axes, blunt objects, take their place. There is no country on this planet that has controlled weapons as a sole measure and had crime to go down. All it does is change what weapon is used. If you want to actually lower crime, you have to lower the desperation of the people who are committing those crimes so that they don't want to. That's the fix. Also, you have to actually punish criminals, because if you can get away with it, well, why wouldn't you?
I'm also deeply mindful and respectful of the Second Amendment and people's constitutional rights. But as it relates to just simple common sense around the idea we're addressing the issue of background checks, and we haven't fundamentally addressed some of those gaps where people that are struggling with mental health disorders and the like, or substance abuse. I just don't understand that gap.
Well, I think that the gap is at least for me, I can tell you why it bothers me. I mean, I carry a gun everywhere to protect myself and my family.
Appreciate it.
And when I hear about the background checks and mentally unstable people, I mean, a lot of veterans, I mean, almost all veterans are pro-gun and fought for the country and want to be able to own one to protect themselves and their family, and especially if there's any recourse from those wars, which we've talked about it on here. There's supposedly over 1,000 sleeper cells of terrorists within our borders, and but if we go down that road, I mean, I know for a lot of veterans, me included, is some people have been diagnosed with PTSD and depression and shit like that from coming home from combat. And so is it, maybe we start with schizophrenia, but then the next thing is, oh, well, is PTS going to be on there? Is depression going to be on there? Am I going to lose my fucking rights, when I fought for the country because somebody, that deems me unstable? Well, maybe I'm not,
right?
But
a convicted felon, someone that has had a violent, dangerous past, someone who's a domestic abuser, I'd like to red flag some of those folks.
I can't argue that.
Yeah,
I can't argue that.
And so unless we have a system that allows at least some vetting with some objective constraints along the lines of what you suggest, now it's just this zero-sum game. It's like you're either pro-gun or anti. It's like, no, that's not the case, man. There's nuance here.
Mm-hmm.
Lewis Rossman talks about the concept of accepting the premise of an asshole. When the person telling you that you are not qualified to own a gun is the same person who created the mental state that makes you unfit to own said gun, they are not worthy to tell you that you can't own a gun. Said differently, you don't let your abuser dictate the terms of your recovery. No one allows this. No therapist would allow this. No court would allow this. This is insane. The person who made you sick does not get to tell you how to heal.
He's
What did Joe say?
a good friend of mine. So this is from Joe Rogan.
Oh, God.
This is a tough one.
He won't have me on the show, by the way.
Who will be held accountable for mandating COVID-19 vaccines for children, which were unnecessary and ineffective?
As it relates to vaccines save lives. But Joe asked a very different question about children, and I respect that. And that was where there was a lot of feedback with a lot of experts that I had as advisors. By the way, I used advisors from 2 other states. We did this West Coast Alliance to review not just what was coming from the federal government, but to have a prism and lens on the recommendations coming from the CDC through our own independent advisors. And I took their advice, not as a doctor, but as a governor.
Second to that, do you feel any remorse for that draconian decision that was obviously heavily influenced by the pharmaceutical companies' desire for maximum profit?
I've asked our team to put together an objective review of everything we did right, everything we did wrong. We're interviewing people that vehemently disagree with us, that oppose the mask mandates, that oppose the stay-at-home orders, people that are international experts. We're stress testing our entire process. Coulda, shoulda, would've. Comparing and contrasting to what other states did. I've asked them to have that report done. It's going to be done next month. And it'll be the only state that I know of that is putting out a truly objective review of what went right and what went wrong. RFK Jr. is a friend of mine. But he really turned on me early, and he flat out lied about some things. Though, because Newsom got some I got sick for 2 or 3 days, and he said it was because of a vaccine, and then he lied about what I had. He weaponized it. He misled. I was like, and I was reaching out going, brother, the hell's going on? And I saw him go down this sort of darker, but on the vaccines, I think some skepticism, absolutely. But I think that there's a lot of mis and disinformation that is really hurt public health. It's my humble opinion.
I genuinely want to apologize for all of the obvious editing and clipping, but this dude is doing a weave that would give Trump a run for his money. And I'm trying to de-weave it, which if you watch the original video, which you should, you will see that I have, in good faith, attempted to de-weave his answers. That being said, I find his answers to be absolutely disgusting. You can bicker amongst yourselves about whether or not his laws that he's passed holding Big Pharma accountable are relevant at all. But to sit here and say that anyone who has a child with myocarditis because of these forced vaccines is misinformation is downright offensive to the point that I should scream into this microphone. And then to loop RFK Jr. into this as though he's somehow relevant to the story when all he wants to do is point out something that anyone with a brain has figured out long ago, which is, yeah, there has been some really bad stuff in our vaccines. The vaccine itself is good. The preservative was not. That's RFK's entire point. If you actually go listen to him talk, his entire point was the preservative in the vaccine was the thing that made the vaccine dangerous. Holy balls, man.
And who will take responsibility for the unprecedented increases in myocarditis and cancer cases among them?
Yeah, I've signed some of the most progressive laws against Big Pharma in the country, so I have receipts on that. So no one should suggest that it was about doing the bidding of Big Pharma, quite the contrary. And I know everyone's a goddamn genius now in hindsight. But at the time, none of us knew what we were up against, including the President of the United States, who I worked very closely with. There wasn't a Democratic governor in America that worked closer during the pandemic than I did with Donald Trump. And you can go back and stress test that. And I say that with the kind of humility he deserves as well, and grace, or rather, grace that he deserves in terms of the decisions he made early on. We were all up against something none of us had any experience around, and we counted on the expert.
So I did edit this somewhat out of sequence, but I wanted to group each individual question with each individual non-answer. And that's what I've done there. But on top of that, number 8 is the one that just offends me the most deeply. Oh, I'm in charge, but it's not my fault. I'm just in charge. I listen to the experts. It's their fault. What is it that Jocko and every other good leader say? Accountability, extreme ownership, every failure is your fault. This man's a fucking worm, and it's disgraceful.
That's the rules for you just mentioned. I'm going to indict myself here. Biggest boneheaded damn decision I made. Now, it was a restaurant that was open. I went to a restaurant, and it was sort of coming out of COVID. We were in that sort of category that I just expressed, where things were lower in that region. And this was a restaurant that was open, but it was against the spirit of what I was saying, which is you shouldn't have large dinners with large group of people, as we did. And I went to a damn birthday party, and I paid the price, and I own it. You know, I'm not perfect, man. And I beat the shit out of myself for that.
So he's referenced grace, admittedly in parts that I've edited out, a bunch of times. He's trying to appeal to the more Christian or religious audience. And when you actually read Exodus and Leviticus, the priest, the high priest, and the priest class is to pay the highest price for sin. They are to sacrifice a young bull without defect, the most valuable animal in existence at that time for, where they were in the world. If you were the leader and you made a mistake, you paid the highest price. So during this period of time, what was the fine? What was $100 to $500 for attending an illegal gathering, and it went up from there based on local rules and whatever else to include jail time up to and including $1,000 fine and 6 months in jail. So as governor, because you intentionally disregarded your own rules, you shouldn't beat yourself up over it. What you should do is go to jail for a year because you're the leader. So you don't just take the maximum penalty, you take double the maximum penalty because you're the one in charge. You lead by example, and you didn't. You want to appeal to my Christianity? How about you read your own Bible?
Now, one of our 18 intelligence agencies said that that Iran had enriched uranium at those facilities, and then Israel, Assad comes along and says, oh no, it's in there.
Begin to negotiate for peace. I appreciated the president immediately pivoting to wanting to negotiate after the successful bombing.
What now? Immediately pivot? Trump was begging them to make a deal before he ever bombed them. He's been incredibly consistent on every country he's talked to. I want peace. I want you to stop killing. Where the hell is he pivoting to making peace? Bro, what?